Project Jake codifies the operational and data complexity of the collection and request processes into a framework and a model. It provides a way to articulate what a policy says via a descriptor language. The model describes the data complexity by tagging data elements in multiple dimensions. There's a substantial amount of data that's collected from a registrant or is generated during the course of registration. We'll call the aggregate of this information a set of data elements. Each data element may need different handling based on what it conveys or the situation under which it is used or collected. For example, some of these data elements are about people and therefore may be subject to privacy concerns. Some contain payment information, which is very sensitive, and so on. In addition, some information may be optional or not collected at all at some registrars. Further, each data element may be checked for accuracy. The Project Jake model labels data elements to make it easier to define the rules for their handling. The model contains two kinds of data labels that are used to describe the type of data being collected. One of these is a category, which is a label that helps to group data that are similar. And the other is the sensitivity of the data. Let's start with the category. As I mentioned, a substantial amount of information is collected and generated with each registration. In some cases, what you may think of as one piece of information may actually be made up of several data elements. For example, an address is broken down into several different data elements: the country, the city, postal code, and the street address. The category labeling structure enables us to generalize data elements into qualitatively different groups. For example, the city components of all contacts fit together into one category. Thus, if a requester is permitted to receive the city portion of contacts, they will receive it for all of the contacts, and they need not specify it separately for each contact. Similarly, the domain category would be used for the DNS records related to the domain name. The data usually is not sensitive. On the other hand, the account category specifies data elements that are related to the business account set up by the registrar, including credit card data and payment details. Such data is usually considered extremely sensitive. This approach enables us to simplify how we request and talk about the data elements. Instead of talking about this information in terms of the approximately 100 separate data elements, we can discuss them by a handful of categories. An important complement to the category is the data element labeling indicating the sensitivity of the information. Some data elements may be publicly available, that is, anybody can look at them. Others may be so sensitive that they shouldn't be shared except under very controlled circumstances. The Project Jake model uses 4 sensitivity levels: public, which can be accessed by anyone; private, which is accessible to those requesters authorized to see private data; very private, which is used to protect data elements from being disclosed to requesters who are authorized to see the usual private data; and extremely sensitive. Such data is accessible only to appropriate authorities with appropriate documentation. The combination of category and sensitivity allows relatively simple request statements to translate into more complicated rules about which data elements are returned in response to each type of request. In addition to category and sensitivity that describe the type of data, there are 2 labels that describe how the data were collected. One is the collection mode, which indicates if the data element is optional, required, or something else. And the validation mode indicates to what degree the collected information is validated, if at all. There are several conditions that will influence what information is collected. The collection mode label provides insight about the conditions under which the data element was collected or not. For example, some data elements must be collected, while for other data, there may be an option to collect the data or not. And yet for other data, there may be a decision to explicitly not collect them. The validation mode label provides insight about the confidence level of the data accuracy. The lowest confidence level has the label of unvalidated, which indicates that whatever is put into the field is taken as is. The next level up from there is labeled syntactic. For example, a phone number is checked to make sure that it looks like a phone number, and has the right number of digits instead of punctuation and emojis or whatever. At the next level of validation, the data would be checked to see if it is actually functions the way it's supposed to. So if it's a phone number and you call it, does it get answered, and does the person respond affirmatively? And finally, we have identity validation. This usually involves additional information to confirm that the data element is indeed associated with the registrant or other contact. There will be enormous variation in the rules across registrars, across registries, and so forth. Specifying that level of validation that was used or required helps the requester understand the accuracy level of the data. The data model is an important part of Project Jake. Combined with the data framework, the Project Jake tools aim to enable proactive conversations about the policies and the rules that govern these exchanges.